Japan just sent a $9 billion shockwave straight through the heart of the American South. Toyota, one of the biggest car makers on the planet, has officially pulled the plug on a massive mega factory in Alabama. And where is all that money, all those jobs, and all that future technology going? Straight across the northern border to Canada. This is not just a regular business move, and this is a massive global power shift, and it changes everything anyone knows about making cars in North America. So for years, the story was very simple. Companies built big factories in the United States because it was the safest, most profitable place to be. States like Alabama offered cheap land, low taxes, and open arms. But the rules of the game have completely flipped upside down. Trade wars, new tariffs, and constant political chaos in Washington are making giant global companies nervous, very nervous. When a business is spending $9 billion, it does not want drama. It wants pure stability. And right now, Japan sees Canada as the ultimate safe haven. Think about what this means for the everyday economy. A $9 billion mega factory is not just a building with machines inside. It is a golden ticket for an entire region. It brings thousands of direct jobs. It brings tens of thousands of indirect jobs for the people supplying parts, building roads, and running local stores. Alabama thought they had this golden ticket in the bag. They counted on this exact factory to secure their economic future for the next 50 years. But in the blink of an eye, the deal was totally dead. Toyota looked at the map, looked at the risks, and decided the American South was no longer the smart bet. Instead, they are taking their mountains of cash to Ontario, Canada. Canada is offering something the United States currently cannot. They are offering a clean energy grid, stable government policies, and a trade strategy that does not change every time there is an election. This is a loud wake-up call for American manufacturing. The title of undisputed industrial king is slipping away, and countries like Canada are standing by, ready to catch the crown. The era of closed borders and strict trade policies might be doing the exact opposite of what they were meant to do. They are pushing global giants away. To truly understand why Japan made this historic pivot, you have to look at the math and the raw reality of building vehicles today. Making a normal car is hard, but making the cars of the future is a completely different beast. It requires massive amounts of electricity, specialized workers, and raw materials that are incredibly hard to get. Canada has been quietly building an empire to provide exactly these things, while the United States has been busy fighting trade wars. For Toyota, the choice became crystal clear. Canada has an electricity grid that is mostly powered by clean energy. When a company builds a modern mega factory, they use an unbelievable amount of power every single day. If that power comes from dirty sources, the company gets hit with heavy financial penalties and terrible press. Canada gives them clean power right out of the gate. On top of that, Canada has the raw materials buried right in its own soil. The minerals needed for modern car batteries are sitting in Canadian mines, ready to be pulled out and sent straight to the factory floor. By moving to Canada, Toyota cuts out the middleman and secures their supply chain against global disruptions. But there is a bigger, darker reason why Alabama lost this massive deal. The constant threat of sudden tariffs in the United States has turned American soil into a high-risk gamble for foreign money. When a car maker builds a factory, they need parts from all over the world to make everything run smoothly. If a politician suddenly decides to slap a massive tax on imported parts, the cost of making that car explodes overnight. The profit vanishes into thin air. Toyota simply could not take that risk anymore. They watched the political climate in Washington grow more and more unpredictable. They saw new policies creating a wall that actually trapped American factories rather than protecting them. So the executives in Japan made the only logical business choice. They packed up their $9 billion vision and looked north. Canada welcomed them with open arms, a stable trade environment, and a firm promise that the rules would not change halfway through the game. This loss is a devastating blow to the American South, a region that built its entire modern identity on being the ultimate spot for foreign car makers. The dominoes are starting to fall, and Toyota might just be the first of many giants to walk away. Let us zoom in on the ground level, because the real tragedy of this $9 billion exit is not just about a giant corporation. It is about the regular people who had their futures tied to this massive project. Down in Alabama, local mayors, small business owners, and construction workers were already counting on a golden era when a mega factory comes to town. It creates a massive ripple effect. People start building new houses. Local diners prepare for thousands of hungry workers. Small factories pop up just to make the bolts, wires, and plastics that the main factory needs. The entire local economy gets supercharged. But the moment Japan pulled the plug, all of those dreams collapsed overnight. Construction contracts are being torn up. Small business owners who took out loans to expand are now staring at empty streets. The shockwave is devastating. On the flip side, look at what is happening up in Canada. The mood in Ontario is absolutely electric. They are not just getting a factory, they are getting a cornerstone for the next century of technology. Canadian leaders played the long game, and it paid off perfectly. They did not rely on flashy promises. Instead, they built the exact kind of foundation that a futuristic business needs. They secured their energy grid. They mapped out their rich mineral deposits. They made sure their trade agreements with the rest of the world were rock solid. So when Toyota came looking for a home, Canada did not just offer them a piece of land. They offered them a fully functioning ecosystem. The contrast between the two locations is staggering. One region was paralyzed by political uncertainty and the fear of sudden taxes. The other region rolled out a green, stable, and highly organized welcome mats. Japan simply looked at the two options and made the only choice that made sense for their bottom line. It is a harsh lesson in modern economics. Giant companies do not care about history or tradition. They care about where they can survive and thrive in the future. The most terrifying part of this entire story is that Toyota might just be the first domino to fall. This $9 billion exit is sending a massive warning signal to every other global company doing business in the United States boardrooms in Europe, Asia, and across the globe are watching this exact situation unfold. They are asking themselves a very dangerous question. If one of the largest, most successful car makers in the world cannot make the math work in the American South, how can anyone else? The problem comes down to trust. For decades, the United States was the ultimate safe bet, but recent trade wars and the constant threat of new tariffs have destroyed that trust. A tariff is simply a massive tax on goods coming across the border. When a country threatens to slap these taxes on parts and materials, it makes planning for the future impossible. A car part that costs $10 today might cost $20 tomorrow just because a politician signed a piece of paper. Giant corporations cannot operate in that kind of chaos. They need to know exactly what their costs will be 10, 20, or 30 years down the line. Canada understands this perfectly. They have stepped up and marketed themselves as the ultimate sanctuary for global manufacturing. They are telling the world that their rules are locked in. No sudden taxes, no political games with supply chains, just clean energy, abundant raw materials, and a straight path to building the cars of tomorrow. The balance of industrial power in North America is officially shifting. The United States is slowly learning that trying to protect its industries with high walls and heavy taxes might actually be locking the money out by pushing away a $9 billion investment. They have handed Canada the keys to the future of the automotive industry. Japan made their choice, and the world is taking notes. The era of blind loyalty to American manufacturing is over, and the race for the future has officially moved north. take a step back and look at the real prize in this $9 billion war. This is not just about making metal boxes with wheels anymore. This is a brutal high-stakes race for the electric vehicle market. The cars of tomorrow run on massive, highly advanced batteries. These batteries require specific minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel. Right now, whoever controls the battery supply chain controls the entire future of transportation. For a long time, the United States thought it could just buy its way to the top. Alabama offered huge tax breaks, hoping to become the battery capital of the world. But tax breaks mean absolutely nothing if a company does not have the raw materials to actually build the products. This is exactly where Canada played a genius level move. Canada does not just have the factories. They have the dirt. They have the actual mines producing the exact minerals that Toyota needs to survive the next 50 years. By moving their $9 billion mega factory to Canada, Toyota is connecting all the dots. They can pull the minerals out of the Canadian ground, process them in a Canadian facility, and put them straight into a car on a Canadian assembly line. It is a closed, perfect loop of manufacturing. There are no borders to cross. There are no surprise taxes to pay. There are no politicians threatening to shut down the supply chain overnight. For Alabama, the loss of this electric vehicle hub is a generational tragedy. The workers down south were preparing to learn the high-tech skills needed for the next century of manufacturing. Colleges were setting up training programs. Entire communities were banking on becoming the ultimate technology hub of car making. Now, all of that specialized knowledge and future wealth is migrating north. Canada is not just taking a single factory. They are legally capturing the brain trust of the future automotive industry. The United States is watching its technological edge slip right through its fingers, simply because it could not provide the stability and the resources that a modern global giant demands. The panic in Washington right now is absolutely deafening. For years, politicians pushed the idea that heavy tariffs and strict trade walls would force global companies to stay on American soil. They gambled the entire manufacturing economy on the belief that companies like Toyota simply had nowhere else to go. This $9 billion exit proves that the gamble was a massive failure. Lawmakers are finally waking up to a terrifying reality. The world is huge and giant corporations have options. When a country makes it too expensive and too unpredictable to do business, those companies will simply pack their bags and leave. Toyota abandoning Alabama is a masterclass in global survival. Executives looked at the soaring costs of importing parts. They looked at the daily threat of random taxes. Then they looked at Canada and saw a totally stable, completely predictable business environment. The choice was not made out of anger. It was made out of pure mathematics. Canada offered a safe harbor in the middle of a massive global trade storm. And the fallout from this mathematical choice is going to hit the average consumer right in the wallet. When factories leave the country, the supply chain breaks down. When the supply chain breaks down, the cost of making cars goes up. The average person looking to buy a reliable vehicle is going to see price tags skyrocketing because the United States is pushing the cheap, efficient production centers across the northern border. Japan just sent a crystal clear message to the entire world. They will not be bullied by erratic trade policies. It will take their mountains of cash to countries that actually want to work with them as partners, not as hostages. The American South is left holding an empty bag, staring at a dirt field where a $9 billion miracle was supposed to stand. Canada is cutting the ribbon on a brand new era of dominance, and the global map of money, power, and industry will never be the same again. The final nail is in the coffin for the American manufacturing dream, and the map of global power has officially been redrawn. We are looking at the absolute climax of a $9 billion earthquake that just shattered the United States auto industry, When a heavyweight champion like Toyota packs up its tools, turns its back on Alabama, and marches straight into Canada, it is no longer just a warning. It is a full-blown industrial revolution happening right before our eyes. The days of America sitting back and expecting the world's biggest companies to just hand over their cash are completely over. Let us break down exactly what this means for you, the everyday person watching this unfold. The global economy is a giant machine, and right now the gears are grinding to a halt in the south and spinning at lightning speed up north. Canada did not just win a factory, they won a massive victory in the war for the future. They built an impenetrable fortress of clean energy, rock-solid trade agreements, and mountains of raw materials. They looked at the chaos, the sudden tariffs, and the totally unpredictable political games happening in Washington, and they offered a perfectly calm, highly profitable alternative. Japan took one look at that Canadian fortress and signed the $9 billion check without looking back. This is the ultimate wake-up call. The United States gambled big on strict borders and heavy taxes, believing that global giants had no choice but to stay. That gamble just failed in the most spectacular way possible. Alabama is left picking up the pieces of a broken promise, watching thousands of high-paying, future-proof jobs vanish into thin air. Meanwhile, Canada is speeding into the next century. Holding the keys to the electric vehicle kingdom, Toyota has spoken, and the message is brutal but honest. In the modern world of business, loyalty means nothing. Stability means everything. Giant companies will follow the path of least resistance, and right now, that path leads straight to Canada. The $9 billion mega factory is gone, and the shockwaves of this single decision will echo through the global economy for the rest of our lives.